Hello. You are listening to the Carroll Connection with your host, Jared Carroll.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Carroll Connection. I'm your host, Jared Carroll, here to bring you guys another great episode. I did want to take a chance to shout out last week's episode 124 with Damien DuPont. He is a filmmaker, a comic book creator, as well as a video game developer. So we talked about his business, New Take Media, and why he started it. And we talked a little bit about his upbringing, talked about how he got into martial arts, how that taught him discipline, how to be a better leader, how to self-defense, all that type of stuff. It's a great podcast. You could check that out, thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you like to watch your podcast, you could check it out on YouTube. Just search The Carroll Connection or Jared M. Carroll, and it should pop up right for you. Also, if you want to be a guest or return as a guest, you could reach out to me on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at The Carroll Connection. If you have my number, you could text me, Snapchat, however you like to contact and reach out, you can do that, and we'll set up another podcast. But that leads me to today, episode 125. Returning guest for episode 34, I believe, is Jeff LePage.
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome back to the podcast, man.
Oh, dude, I'm so pumped to be back. This is an awesome experience.
It's been a minute, and we talked about when you'd come back, when we set it up, and we booked this out. You were ready. We booked this out months ago almost, and we knew what we were doing. We had a specific plan in mind, and I think it's going to be a really great podcast. I think it's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to get into it. I know you usually keep it to about an hour.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about some good things. I know we've already been spent the last 45 minutes to an hour just kind of catching up, talking, hanging out for a little. So we're kind of in the flow. Yeah,
we're ready. So for this, just kind of tell people a little bit what you've been up to since that last podcast, and we'll build off that.
Yeah, definitely. So lots happened over the last 2 years. I was actually on the podcast not right at the beginning, but it was more almost a year in, a little before a year. Now it's 2020, I believe. So it's been two years about, and man, I've done a lot of things, and I'm excited to get into them. I don't know if we'll get into all of it, but I guess I'll start with the biggest thing. Since the last podcast, it was right when I graduated college and I commissioned as a lieutenant in the Army. Ever since then, I went to my schooling in Texas. I went to San Antonio and did my medical service bullock over there with the Army. And then right after that, 7 days later, I got on a plane and I deployed to the Middle East. I did a combat deployment over there with the Massachusetts National Guard with the artillery. Learned a lot. It was definitely not what you expect out of a deployment. Basically, I was a staff officer the whole time, doing administrative work, not leading soldiers, not on the battlefield, but everybody plays a part in everything, and it was a great experience. Learned a lot. Wasn't always easy. I actually learned a lot in strange ways. A lot of people will go on deployments with the military, and some people come back and they're, not mentally doing so well. Some people will come back and change their life for the better. Some people will go back and they'll come back indifferent. It all depends. But I got a lot of professional experience from it. It was the daily grind, 7 days a week, 9, 10-hour days, 12-hour days, 7 days a week, all administrative work, all office work, briefs to the boss, to the colonel, briefs to everybody. So it was just real heavy on the administration, real heavy on the professionalism, real heavy on office life. Anyways, so I learned a lot. It was hard, but I got pretty good at public speaking. I got really good at being professional as much as possible. It was nice because I was probably the youngest and most inexperienced professional in the room. And that teaches you a lot. When you're the not the smartest person in the room, you feel dumb, but you come out much better.
Yeah, weren't you over there too when a lot of the stuff was I think we were taking a lot of troops out of was it I forget what country? Yeah.
Afghanistan.
You were over there when that stuff was happening, weren't you?
So I was in Qatar at the time. I was not in Afghanistan. Our unit was in Afghanistan. Our soldiers were in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. Our soldiers were some of the last people to come out of Afghanistan, which was interesting. So I wasn't there, but I was supporting the fight from Qatar. And it was really interesting. A lot of refugees coming out, a lot of soldiers coming out. It wasn't pretty by any means. I probably saw everything all over the news. But it was interesting to be a part of. And you look back in history and it was a disaster, but being part of it and having it come to an end is good, because I don't think we should have been there much in the first place. But I was part of that. It was interesting. We had soldiers everywhere. We were in Afghanistan. We were in Iraq. I got to go to Iraq for a while, which was nice. But I spent most of my time in Qatar, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like and I remember we were talking a little bit about that on the first podcast too, about like you were gearing up for a deployment and like you were leading up for that. So it's interesting to kind of hear that a couple of years like removed from that podcast of like it's a completely different mindset here we're talking about, and the change, and like that is something that I've been excited to see in this podcast, is like that actual change and like to see the growth in someone. So it's cool to hear like this is just the first part of the story. Like we have so much to talk about and like what you've been up to like actually go to a different country and like work out there, and especially obviously being in the military, it brings different types of responsibilities. And like obviously thank you for your service and like being willing to go do that. Even like you're saying, yeah, it might have been just like an office job, but like you're still serving your country, and like that does a lot, because like you're obviously supporting the people around you, and not many people are willing to actually do that, and that needs to be commended more. I'm definitely a support the troops person, and like regardless of like the type of job, because obviously there are many jobs in like the military, so like you need them all to have a successful military, and like being surrounded by probably so many like smart people, like you're saying, like you learn a lot. So like what was that kind of like when like being the youngest in a room, like you have to like honestly learn to kind of shut up and listen more, and that's something that like always was taught, like even during like football and stuff, that was like kind of like a lesson, was like don't speak back to the coach and stuff like that, just listen and like execute on plays. Did that kind of, I can imagine that kind of probably helped you in the military to a certain extent?
It's hard to say. So anyways, I want to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah,
like you said,
totally.
I remember I listened to my last podcast today because I was interested to see what I was talking about. And one of the things I talked about, how I said I was kind of like disappointed a little bit with basic training about how too easy it was.
I remember that.
But I remember kind of like getting into that more and explaining why like not everybody in the army or in the military is combat. Like not everybody's a combat soldier. Like there's a lot of support. There's a lot of technical people, like the cooks, you know what I mean? Like anyways, there's a lot of support that goes into supporting the fight, a lot of logistics, a lot of medical support, which is like what I do. So not everybody is, on the battlefield, and not everybody's a combat soldier. So that experience being deployed, being on a professional staff, supporting a colonel's mission, like it was just so different. You know what I mean? Like I didn't expect, combat deployment with the army. Like I want to do this. Like I didn't expect it to be like that. It was the opposite of what I expected. But then when you look back on like whatever experience you get in life, it was worth it. You know what I mean? I learned the skills I was looking for. I wanted that professional experience. I wanted that. Anyways, I wanted that experience. So I'm glad that that's what I got. And then by the time I was done with it, like I realized I don't think I want to sit in an office for my career. But
it's definitely not for everyone, I'll tell you that. Like,
no, it's not. Ever since I got home, I actually moved on to my next assignment. Now I'm with the infantry. So I am more on the battlefield with the soldiers, leading soldiers. I'm actually a platoon leader now. And that's so much better. Like it just makes you feel better to be like with the soldiers, leading soldiers, being the leader on the ground with them. I'm tapping on the table. My bad.
No, you're good. You're good. It's not picking up. So
all
you're good.
Right.
Yeah.
So
nothing harder than that.
All right. But yeah, no, like now that I'm in my second assignment, I was like, it's time to move on. Like you get experience in a position in the military and then you move on. That's just how it works. Mm-hmm. As an officer, at least. And I knew I could get comfortable where I was. We just got back from deployment, settle in, relax. Like we start from the ground up again. And I was like, no, I can't. So I need to move on to a harder assignment. Got to a new unit who's actually on prepping for potential deployment. Don't know yet. But we might be deploying in the future. So we're on like that high operation tempo again. We're training a lot. We're in the weeds, really putting in the work. And but it's so much better being a platoon leader than being on a staff. Like it's just a whole different concept. It's leading soldiers versus computer sitting around like doing briefs all day, and it's just a whole different concept. But
I was gonna ask too if you were gonna deploy again, or if that was like an option on the table for you to do it, and if like, do you have a say in that? Like, is that just kind of just like where you go is like where you go where you're told type thing?
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It all depends on the situation.
Okay.
Right now, I have the opportunity to lean into the not wanting to go on a potential deployment that's coming up. So that's where I'm leaning. But not everybody gets that opportunity. Sometimes, depending on your job, depending on where you're at, like you have to go. Sometimes you're just ordered to go. But it all depends, especially nowadays. Like technically we're not in a war anymore because Afghanistan's over. So we're not, and we're National Guard. So we deploy on rotations every 4 to 10 years in the state. So it's really not, it's situation dependent. So it depends.
That makes sense. And like, is it with the National Guard? Is that like contract based? Like you sign a certain number of years and then you keep re-signing. Like how does?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of people do like it's called a 6x2. So you enlist for 6 years or you join for 6 years, and then there's 2 years on the back end where you're in the reserve basically.
Okay.
And you're basically done. But if there's like a serious war, they ever needed your position, your job, they can call you back in to work. But it's basically a 6-year contract. You can do 3, you can do 4, I think. Or you can do more. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. And well, we could use that because I definitely wanted to dive into that to like start the podcast because that was like kind of a lot of stuff that we were was kind of like, even like we talked privately off that podcast was like, this is like where you were going. You were talking about deployment and like, now I kind of want to talk about like that mindset of like, obviously before I jump to that question, like, have you ever been away from your family and friends like you were being in deployment, like having that separation? Because like I found when like, obviously not comparing the two, but like when I moved to Texas, like that isolation period for myself away from family and friends was like, it was hard, but also beneficial. So I'm wondering if you had a similar experience.
How long were you in Texas?
I was in Texas for a year.
Okay. So yeah, you probably got a little bit of taste of what it's like to be gone for like 12 months or so.
Yeah.
From your family. Did you ever come back like holidays?
Yeah, I came for like the holidays and stuff. That always made it harder, at least, especially going back, is like being able to see your family and then knowing that you have to go away from them again. So it was like always like a carrot on a stick, like you're chasing that like that familiar out. I can't even speak. You guys know what I'm trying to say, but I'm chasing that aspect of it, and like it was always hard to go. Like I remember going back, like just always talk about like post vacation depression or like shit like that. It was a similar thing where like the first couple of days getting back like to Texas in my apartment, was like, damn, it's so quiet. Like it was just so hard to like readjust. But like I mean, we're human beings, we adapt, we do that. So like being able to do that and come back and bounce back. But like, if I never moved away, like this podcast doesn't exist. So it's like, I'm wondering like if you had that same kind of mind shift, like being out there kind of maybe put things in perspective in a different aspect for you. Cause like, obviously we're going to dive into a lot of the stuff like the business and like your career path. Like you've seemed to like really kind of like come back and like with a lot of intention. We were talking about intention off the podcast and it seems like there's a lot of like intention here. So I'm wondering where you kind of come up with this and like what was it like out there?
Yeah, so a lot changed in my life over the year. I went into deployment. Not so sure exactly what I was doing with my life because I got accepted into graduate school and then I obviously had to defer. So I felt like I was straying away from my path, and it was kind of disheartening, honestly. But I was like, I got to do this. I decided to do this. Like I actually volunteered for this deployment. I didn't have to go. So I volunteered. I wanted to do it. It's something I want to do. Everyone that joins the army, like, or the military, you want to deploy at least once. That's what you want to do. So I was like, I got to do it while I'm young. I was in a relationship at the time. I was like, it's going to be hard. I'm going to go for it. See what happens. So I went into it, and yeah, I kind of went in like really like hardcore mindset. Like I was exercising like crazy. The first thing I did when I started my deployment was I did a bulk. I gained 19 pounds and I was moving weight. I got in 1,000-pound club. I was into it. Like I was like, wake up at 5 a.m., hit the gym every single day. Obviously I took Sunday off, but like every single day, like in the gym, grind, put on the weight, put on the size. I was ripping it. And like, it felt great. I was like, I'm dedicated. I actually was doing a master's degree at the same time. I earned my master's in business administration and healthcare management from Fitchburg State University during my deployment, the entire deployment for the year. I did an accelerated program, just to, professional development, just to benefit my career in healthcare management, because basically that's my military job, is healthcare management, medical operations, and administration. But anyways, so I'm like, wake up at 5, grind, full day of work, school at night, every single day. I'm like, if I'm not getting the military experience downrange that I want, I'm going to take advantage of my personal time and I'm going to work. And you burn out. I burned out. Everybody does. Like I went way too hard, burned out. I did the Norwegian foot march. So fun. 18.6 miles, I think. Yeah. 18 miles, something like that. 18 miles foot march, 25-pound pack in the morning. And then you have to do a full day of work after to get the badge. Like it's blast. Like I was pushing myself real hard. And then, holidays come, breakup happens. absolutely devastated. Like my whole life turned upside down. Everything I was like grinding so hard, like, oh, I'll get back home to my family, my loved ones, just all turned around. Obviously, when my relationship ended, changed my whole perspective on everything. I was pretty broken for a while. I'm not going to lie. Just barely getting through work every day, just doing my thing. Takes a toll on you when a relationship ends. I'm sure everybody can relate to that, had a relationship end. Any relationship. I mean, it's all varying degrees. But yeah, man. So then after that, that's around the same time my bulk ended. I hit my goals and I was just miserable. Holiday season absolutely sucked last year. That's why I'm so thrilled right now to be back with my family. So excited. This is amazing. Like even just last few weeks has been great. Thanksgiving and everything. But yeah, absolutely sucked. And then January, February rolled around and I'm like, okay, like obviously can just stay miserable until I get home or it's a new year and I can, try and see what I can make of my life. So definitely that's when I think my mind, I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. My mindset started to shift a little. I was less fully focused specifically on my Army duties. I was doing what I needed to do to almost survive. Probably not the best thing to do, but like I was just like, I know what I can do. Like I know what I need to do to get home. Like let's start thinking about what's next. So still struggling. I was actually seeing a licensed independent social worker for some therapy at the time, which was really nice.
I always like to hear that, though.
Oh, yeah.
We can talk a little bit about that, too.
Yeah. So I saw a few sessions when I was overseas. Very nice lady. Like, she really helped me out. I did a lot of mindfulness. I got so into mindfulness, like personal, taking care of myself with my own mindfulness, my own, because I can only see her so many times. I was going home. I was on my way out the door a few months. So I had a few sessions, which was really good. I really got into mindfulness and meditating. Really helped me. Just like, being aware of your thoughts. I'm sure you know.
Yeah, that's a huge key, is just being aware of like what you're actually thinking. That's like one of the benefits of like doing any type of meditation act is like when you first start, like all the thoughts bouncing between your head, trying to figure out like how do I just like not think, like, and like that's not the real goal. It's to just be aware of what you're thinking, being aware of the thoughts, being able to separate your thoughts and you. And like that was always a powerful thing that I learned between therapy and like just meditation, was just like you aren't your thoughts. Like your thoughts and you are, they're two separate things. And like when you really choose to identify as your thoughts, that's usually when things start to become more chaotic, because if you're having very negative, toxic thoughts, you might think of yourself as a bad person for thinking those thoughts. If you're depressed, you could really adopt that depressive mind state and just, I'm just depressed. This is what I think, and this is what I think of myself. And obviously, we're not talking about like the clinical aspects of depression and stuff like that, but like the feeling of it, you can really get sucked into a deep hole, and like it's hard to like self-motivate yourself to get out of that space. And for people who practice meditation more regularly, something I wish I kept with, but it's one of those things. It's like it's good to have in your tool belt to do. Like I believe like that, journaling, I think reading in general too is always a good thing to have in your tool belt. Just to have these things that where you could just separate from life. And like everyone has different things, like whether it's certain hobbies, you could even include those as therapeutic. People always say the gym is therapy and stuff.
Oh, so that's another thing too. I want to wrap this up, but then I want to talk about hobbies.
Yeah.
That's one thing over the last year. I got so into hobbies, and just like you said, like it takes you out. You know what I mean? It puts you in your own, it almost like puts you in the flow state. It lets you do your thing. It kind of separates those thoughts and it brings it all together. But anyways, I want to talk about hobbies too. But anyways, just to wrap that up, like you said, like separating your thoughts from like how you feel, or just accepting that they're just thoughts. That the thing is, that's also a theory, right? So, it's acceptance and commitment therapy, dialectic behavior therapy. Mindfulness is definitely a theory. I don't think that would work for everybody. The whole like acknowledge your thoughts. They're just thoughts. Like some people's thoughts are so ingrained in them, and that becomes their behavior. That becomes their beliefs. It's a lot more. It's a lot of intertwines, you know what I mean? But anyways, like I think it's important, and if you can adopt mindfulness, it's very effective. Not for everybody, but I think it's very, very useful. But anyways, I just want to wrap up.
Yeah, we
I want to get into hobbies.
Yeah,
I want to get into mental health. I want to tell you about what I'm doing for my career and my profession now and everything. But just to wrap it up, yeah, man. So I was doing some therapy, trying to get back on my feet. New year. I was getting super into the fitness again. I totally transitioned. I was telling myself I wanted to run a marathon within the next 5 years. I said, screw it. Now's the time. I have nothing else to do every single day after work and before work than to train. So I started training for marathon. Never done it in my life. When I started, I could barely run 2 miles. When I finished, 26.2 mile marathon and felt good.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. So I took 3 months. Yeah, about 3 months prepping. And it changed how I think about things, because your body is capable of so much more than you think it is. Like, so much more than you think it is. It's insane. Like, I was like, I'm never going to be able to run 12 miles. And then I just do it on a random Saturday for my workout. And I'm like, all right, it's moving on to work. It's just weird.
No, it's impressive, to be honest, to even do that. Most people can't do that. So like, to put yourself in those positions to be able to do those things requires a level of discipline that most people don't have. And like, you're talking about stuff like emotionally, like when you're going through, especially even going through like breakups and stuff, or like heartbreaks, those are some of the hardest things to pull yourself out of. So like, and obviously we all go through them in like different ways and different levels of emotions, but to do that and to do the things that you've accomplished since then, it's like, it's very like, it deserves like a round of applause, and like you should be able to pat yourself on the back from time to time. And that's something that I'm trying to get better at, is to be more willing and accepting to like be proud of myself, of the stuff I do. Cause like I struggle with being able to like be proud of this. I mean, like you walked in the room and seeing all the camera angles now and like the lights and like,
it's impressive.
Yeah, just
awesome.
to see that your reaction was like I should be proud of this. Like I've come a long way. And like, I think more people should have that mindset, but I'll let you kind of dive into the hobbies and stuff too, that I know that like that will lead into like kind of what we're talking about here though. So
one thing I'll say about that, I would say personal opinions, everyone has beliefs, opinions. I would say be careful with pride. Pride is, I don't think you want to lean too much into it. You don't want to be too proud. I think you want to be humble and proud. So it's like, you almost want to be more grateful, not as prideful. Just an opinion. You know, everyone has their own opinions, but I would definitely be careful with pride. I think I think my take on that is more take a step back, view things from a holistic perspective, almost like, and then like almost be grateful that you have that opportunity. You have this change, this growth, this development in yourself. And then I think that's just how I view it.
Gratitude, huge.
Gratitude, I think. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I'd say gratitude more than, but it's more of the pride and being proud is more of like an acknowledgement that you've actually done something too, and like you've come, and it's part with change too. And I think it's, again, it's definitely good for some people. Obviously, you can get more into the ego and the narcissism and stuff like that.
That's where it's like you got to tread a little light.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, yeah, sometimes you just got to take a step back and see what you've accomplished, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's reflection.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
this time of the year is all made for that. Like I always get like that.
I think that's also a reason why I wanted to get back on the podcast, because I'm like, this was a crazy year for me. Like, and now I'm kind of like rolling it up. Obviously, we're not getting into every little thing, but I'm like, this is kind of a cool way to wrap up the year for me. So
yeah, it's like another check mark on the crazy list of things that you've been accomplishing this year. So like, let's dive into some of these hobbies that you want to talk about.
Oh yeah. Okay. First off, I started playing golf this summer. Golf is so awesome. Have you ever played golf?
My dad, my brother, everyone around me loves it. I've never gotten into it. It's just one of those things I just struggled to get into. Like, I just don't like the pace. Like, I don't like the slow down. Like, I like the go. And it's something I'll probably eventually get into. Like, everyone around me does it. So it's like, it's one of those things. But I can appreciate the sport for what it is and what people do like it for.
It's the pace. Some people don't like it. I've actually seen people like that. But it's so weird, because for me, it's like I loved it. I've been getting so... Not that I'm like burnt out, but like, you know, I did the weightlifting, the powerlifting, absolutely destroyed. Like there's some days you can't really get out of bed. Like you just feel so exhausted from powerlifting. That was pretty cool though. And then like marathon like that, my knees aren't the same anymore. Anybody can make fun of me for, you only ran one marathon, like you have bad knees. It's like, yeah, one marathon did it. Like I'm starting to feel a lot better now. I've been like working on just like mobility stuff and like stretching more, but like my knees are shot.
You played a lot of basketball too, and you're a taller guy, and like you're especially lifting like what were lifting like. Yeah, it's gonna do a toll, especially if you're like, if you don't give yourself the rest too, and like the actual proper recoveries, like yeah, it's gonna take a toll. Like, and people who want to like clown you for that, like I think they're probably people who don't do anything physical activity related. And
yeah,
I mean, everyone's body's different too, you know?
Yeah, no, you're right. I don't know, but anyways, so yeah, I was just like, I want something that's still slightly competitive, but not like killing me. So I was like, golf is pretty fun. I ended up just really liking it. I played a lot in the summer. It's just nice to get outside in the sun and whatever. What else? Oh, this is a good time. Okay. This is a good time to bust out the wine. So for everybody listening, I'm walking in my grandparents' footsteps. I come from a Portuguese family, and for like 40 years now, maybe 50 years, I don't even know. My grandfather's been making his own wine in his garage every single year. It's what he did. We did it when we were kids. We squeeze our own grapes. We have our own family's wine. And this was the first year where I started to realize, like, I gotta take over something. You know what I mean? I gotta have the legacy of my family continue. So this is the first year I made my own wine. I went to Al Jack's in Providence, and I bought some grapes from California, some Zinfandel grapes. I learned the ropes from my grandfather, and I squeezed my own wine. And I brought some. So if you're interested,
yeah, let's see it. Let's get some.
Let's have some wine. This is this year's wine.
Yes, sir. You guys in the video, you're gonna see this.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, we can talk about the process a little, but this is one of those hobbies. Like I was just like, now every year, me and my brother are gonna make wine together, and it's gonna be good.
Let's go.
Anyways, so fresh squeezed Zinfandel. It's still fermenting, so it's a little sweet.
For anyone that's watching or listening, this is how you become one of the best guests in the podcast, just so you know. Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, man. All right. Yeah, we can talk about it a bit and all that, but I want your opinion on it.
I have to get a nice cheers in there before.
Yeah, for sure.
Of course.
Cheers, man.
Cheers. Welcome back to the podcast, brother.
Appreciate it. So,
I like that.
Sweet.
I'm more of a sweet type person anyways, so
okay.
I like that.
Yeah, so right now it's actually still fermenting. This came out of a little jug I have, but like I have a big 15-gallon that's not gonna be ready until next summer.
I like that.
But like it's good stuff, man.
You guys like that in the podcast.
Yeah, man. But yeah, it's a long process. I learned. It's like this wine's not gonna be fully ready in my 15-gallon jug until next summer. Like that's when it'll be ready to bottle and like put away and like actually start drinking. But like we had a little extra. So when you put it in a smaller container, like a gallon or like a 750, it'll ferment faster. So this isn't like fully fermented wine yet. It's still kind of like sweet, but like this is as close as it's going to get until it's ready.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
a long process.
It is a long process. It's actually really cool. Like you buy all the grapes, you grind them, then you got to let them ferment while they're just ground up like mush. Then you squeeze them, then you filter it, then you bottle it. You got to let it finish fermenting. Then you seal it. Then you bottle it. It's a long process. It's really cool.
No,
and now I'm going to start doing it every year. And I'm so excited. It's just another hobby, another thing to do with my family. Me and my brother are going to start doing
huge.
It. So like, it's just something we can continue now with going forward and do something together. And then this Zinfandel is good for like, you can age it for probably 3 to 5 years, not any longer. I mean, anybody can argue that, but probably like, so now we can have this wine. We can remember our first year in 5 years and like, remember like we can taste it and be like, oh my God, that was 5 years ago. And it's still fresh. You know what I mean?
That's actually a crazy thing to think about. Yeah. Obviously, yeah. I went to Ireland too. I got to go to a couple places like watch them make whiskey and stuff like that. So it's cool. And like just to see someone locally be able to make their own wine and stuff like that. Like that's it's cool. It's cool to have like to know how to do that process and then have like the family aspect behind it. Like that just makes it so much more special. And to be able to like, obviously if you want children one day, like that's to be something that you could pass down to them or nieces and nephews and stuff like that. To, like to incorporate that in the family. That's something really dope, man.
And that's what my intent is. Like 10 years from now, 15 years from now, I can still be making my wine. You know what I mean? Legacy for my family once my grandfather passes away. And it's just like something we're going to do. You know what I mean? It's going to be something in the family now. And it's good wine.
No, like, yeah.
I was, over the summer, I was on vacation at the beach. Or my parents were camping and my whole family was camping. That's something they love to do. And my grandfather's drinking his wine from last year. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. Like, I mean, that's it. I drank it and I got drunk and I'm like, this is it. I'm making my wine this year. It's so good. It's incredible. So
just to be able to have, like, this is a cool ass hobby. Like most people don't have this as a hobby. Like, especially people that I've talked to, I don't know a single person that does this or has this as a hobby. So like one, it's like, to me, it's unique, and I think it's fucking sweet. Like, I don't know. And it tastes fucking mad good. So,
it's
like,
good.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know how, like, expensive the process is, but, like, you get to have all, like, as much wine really as you want to make, basically. So that seems like it's kind of
I'm not a big wine drinker. Like, I'm not a big drinker in general.
Yeah.
There's some people who drink every day. Like, if that's your thing, hey, that's your thing, as long as you're not disrupting life for other people or hurting people or being crazy. I was actually just talking to my parents today. I guess my my dad's uncle. He's like in his 80s now. He's almost 90. He's old. And he was like, my dad was telling me stories about how when he was younger, he'd just go to the bars and be ridiculous and like drink way too much and like get into fights with cops. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, don't be doing that. But anyways, like as long as you're not crazy, you're not, and it's not a problem. You know what I mean? Like if you have an addiction problem or like you're an alcoholic, you need to get some help. You know what I mean? And that's okay. As long as you're not having a problem, man, having a glass of wine, it's your thing. It's okay. You know what I mean?
Glass of wine, a beer, drink a little glass of whiskey, like whatever floats your boat,
Hell
people.
yeah.
It's always a nice thing to do.
Absolutely.
If you live in a state where weed is legal, if you like to toke one up, you toke one up, have an edible, go to the place.
That's another thing. I've when I was younger, I determined that cannabis smoking just wasn't for me.
Mhm.
It didn't work well with me. I didn't like it.
Mhm.
It wasn't for me. But like the culture is like so different now with that. And I'm like, oh, maybe one day, like obviously once I'm out of the military, if I'm in a career where I'm not like obviously drug tested or whatever,
Yeah.
maybe I'll look into something like it's so different now.
There's more knowledge. And like now that it's legal in a lot of places, there's a lot more testing that can be done. And like there's more research. Like things can be legally done, things can be done safer. Like obviously the aspect of profits comes into play in capitalism where it can affect the industry negatively. And there's some stuff where it's happening where the product is suffering and like the costs are kind of iffy in some places. But like when you have people who are driven and who actually care about cannabis and who care about the customer and who care about giving people the plant in like in a healthy, positive way, I think there's some good stuff that can be done there. I mean, you can say the same thing about people who like make their own wine or make their own whiskey or their own alcoholic beverage. Like when there's good intention made behind that, I think positive things can be done. So yeah, the culture has definitely changed from like being very shameful, like, oh, people are just lazy dumbasses and shit.
That's
like,
what it was for so many years. It's so strange.
And now it's like everyone you could possibly think of just does it. And like it's so interesting definitely to see how that's changed. I mean, it's even changed in myself too, the perspective of it and like the usage of it and how I've looked at it. Even like I think people go through things too that force you to kind of like look at things more objectively, where it's like, are you drinking or smoking because you really enjoy it, or are you using it as a crutch to like cope with something? And a lot of people tend to lean more to the coping mechanism because like they don't want to deal with a lot of the stuff they're going through. And that somewhere where I lied was like I would use those things to not feel what I needed to feel.
That's not new though.
Yeah.
Nicotine, alcohol, like that's in our genes, man. Like we look for something to cope. You know what I mean? When you have trauma or anything. So it's not new. It's almost just like it's almost sad. You know what I mean? Like a lot of like alcohol, like it gets abused. You know what I mean? It's almost sad that it's being abused. Or like, cause it's a big culture thing. Like alcohol has been around forever. Same thing with cannabis now. It's a culture thing. It's almost like sad that something that can be so great that, I don't know. I mean, maybe everybody can have mixed opinions about this, but like something that's like part of the culture that can be a good thing is just like bad because it can be used in that kind of way.
Yeah. There's the way even like the alcoholic culture is broadcast to people always. As someone who tend to lean more team cannabis for a long period of time, it's always weird to see the way they like Super Bowl commercials. It's always like Budweiser or Bud Light, and it's always some funny like happy-go-lucky thing, and like they just refuse cannabis companies altogether. And like if you really compare them side by side, like between just like overdoses, deaths, like all these different addictions and stuff, like it's pretty probably glaring to see the differences. Obviously, we don't have the numbers on one versus the other, as because like one was legal for a long period of time and one wasn't. But like the damages that the alcohol can cause to people is like overlooked for like the social aspect of like, oh, it makes me feel good, have a good time, like all this other stuff. But like there are a lot of negatives, and like I noticed the negatives more when I cut it out and focused more on my actual physical health. I was like, wow, that shit was holding me back. And it's like this extra just like weight that you can gain. You just think about all the food you probably eat after when you go out and drink. And it's just like, it's
your relationship with it. You know what I mean? It's not at the end of the day, like it's not, I mean, again, anything can be argued, and please argue me, hit me up. It's not the alcohol. It's not the cannabis. It's not this. I mean, maybe it is the cigarettes. I don't know, but it's like, I don't think it's the thing. It's the person. You know what I mean? It's your relationship with it. And we can actually move into our next little topic. We can talk about some mental health stuff and what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Leave this right in there.
Yeah, it's the relationship with anything. You know what I mean? You can have bad relationships or addictions with anything. You know what I mean? It's more about the person. And that kind of leads me into what I'm doing for my career. And I know I mentioned this on my last podcast. I just finished my first semester, got home from deployment, finally went back to school. My first semester in clinical psychology, on the road to be a licensed mental health counselor, to be a therapist, which I really want to do. And, I learned a lot just one semester. I'm excited for the next one already. But like you start to see it's, obviously I'm focusing on mental health. I'm going to be seeing, when I start practicing, I'm going to be seeing people that have dysfunction, and then I'm trying to help. But it's not always like that. Everybody's damaged in a way. Everybody is dysfunctional in their own way. It's all about your relationship with the thing. Like I could have a horrible relationship with alcohol and I could be an addict, or I could not be. It all depends. It's less, I guess my whole point is it's less about the thing. It's more about the person. And I think when you're more person focused, you can get a lot more done.
Yeah, no, that's probably a better way to look at it. I think a lot of people, I've noticed too, with like the mental health space, is like it's a tough space for people to get into, and it's something that people have to realize is like your therapist and the people that are helping you are also people that sometimes also need therapists and need people.
It's crazy. I don't mean to cut you off on that, but it's so crazy. One of the biggest things so far in my program they've stressed so hard is that as a practicing therapist, you need to be like, they stress the wellness. You know what I mean? They stress your personal wellness. You need to be fit. You need to be healthy. You need to screen yourself for impairment. Like if you can't be fit to do the therapy, like you can't do it. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. It's unethical to practice when you're not fit enough to practice. So it makes you think like you really got to focus on self-care. You got to take care of yourself too. Therapists need therapy. So
yeah, that's something that I remember you loved the episode with my cousin. I think it was episode 3, Carrie Peterson Weaver, and we talked about so this is going way back. We were talking about just her process, talked about her mom getting hit by a drunk driver and like getting into becoming like a therapist and stuff like that. And like you talked about how that really resonated with you. And like she talked about that too. It's like how like we need therapists too. Like we have bad days too. Like, and as someone who's in that position, you're taking on a lot of stuff from people. Like people are telling you all their traumas, all their problems, and like that weighs on you. Like that's something that's heavy. I mean, just think about people that you like have in your own personal life. When you listen to like someone vent, like energy is transferred. Like I don't know where you lie, but like I'm a firm believer like energy is in everything. Like whether it's a person or a thing, like energy can be transferred. So like if I'm like in a bad state, in a bad mood, that could rub off on you.
Oh yeah.
So it's like
absolutely
when you're being a therapist and you're talking to people constantly, there's a chance that stuff can rub off on you. And especially I'm a type of person where I sometimes feel like I'm carrying stuff that's not necessarily mine, like emotionally. So it's like people need to kind of like grasp that. And like, that's something that I'm kind of glad that we're talking about in this mental health space, is something that people don't understand, is just your therapists are human. Like that is something that like I don't think I've really talked about in the podcast, and this is like a good like talking point. But as someone who's getting into the field, like what has it been like going through school, and like what are your objectives to like going forward with this? So I know we probably talked a little bit about this on the last podcast, but like obviously going through like get your master's and stuff, like where are you at with this? Like what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, so I'm still at the very beginning. Like this was my first semester in a 3-year program. Like it takes a lot. Most of my program is internship and practicum, where I'm actually going to be working and obviously not getting paid as an intern, but practicing like with my own clients. I'm not there yet, and I can't wait till I'm there. And hopefully, or maybe by the next time I'm on the podcast, I'll be working or I'll be licensed by then, and we can have some more conversations about my experiences. But yeah, no, I'm just starting. It's kind of weird because I'm kind of like, how am I gonna in just a few months sit down and have like clients that I have to do therapy with? Like what? Like I guess I'm entrusted with that, but like I don't feel like I'm ready. I'm sure I will be when the time comes, but I'm not there yet. Like I'm still at the very beginning. I guess like your question was like, where do I see myself? What my goal is kind of?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
So it's a 3-year program. I'll start next fall. I'll start my practicum. So I'll start working. And I really am just right now, my goals is I'm keeping an open mind. I'm taking this opportunity in the lectures and class to learn as much as I can, and really digest as much as I can. So when it comes time to apply, I'm as ready as possible. So I'm honestly right now, it's not like, I have goals like along the way, like grade point average goals, or like what I want to get out of it, or like what I'm looking for in the program. Like it's school. If anyone's gone to college or higher ed, like you understand school is school sometimes. But I think right now I'm keeping an open mind. I'm really not going to know how I feel about this profession until I'm practicing. So I think I'll have to rain check on that.
Yeah, we'll circle back, and like that'll be a good podcast too to talk about. Like, obviously not like your our clients, obviously, but like the experience in general. Like that'll be like it'll be cool to kind of like hear about that and like where you're kind of going with that. Because as someone who tries to center my podcast around mental health, like I always look for people in that space to come on and talk about that, and to even talk about your points like about like not being ready. Like just think about all the stuff that you weren't ready for, but you did anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I think that's like a good fear type thing, or a good nerve to have, is like one that means you care about what you're about to do, because if you didn't care, you wouldn't feel any type of way about it. You'd just
be
indifferent.
No, that's right.
So it's like the fact that you are nervous or feel like you might not be ready is because like you want to do a good job and you want to help people.
Right. And like, I feel like, that's a quality. I don't want to like sit here and pat myself in the back, but like that's a quality that I like, is that I can be nervous, but I won't shy away from things. I'll have courage to go do things. You know what I mean? Like I remember I said, I was at a training before I deployed, like just a drill weekend, and like someone came up to me. I don't want to get into the details, but they were like, "So the slot's open. Like, do you want to deploy?" I was like, "Yes," like instantly. Like I know that the benefits are gonna like be really worth it. Like the experience, what I get from it, the pay, everything is going to set me up really well. I didn't hesitate. Like, do I want to? Does anybody want to like sign up to go away for a year and not be with their family? No, it was miserable at times. It was crazy experience at times, but I grew from it. And like, I didn't shy away. I didn't ruminate with it and think about it. I just took action. And I was like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I'm a courageous person. Like, I think more people should be courageous. Don't ruminate so much on your thoughts. Take action. Make decisions. You know what I mean? Be decisive. That's one thing I struggled with a lot when I was younger, being very, very indecisive. Still struggle with it today. I'm sure some people that are close with me can see it. You know what I mean? Like I struggle sometimes with being indecisive. Sometimes you don't want to make hard decisions, but you have to. And I think if you make swift, hard decisions in a timely fashion, like you'll get more done, you'll be more productive, and you will grow more. So like, I guess like what I'm trying to say is like, just be more courageous, even if you don't feel ready for things, you feel that stress, obviously feeling a lot of distress, like take a step back. You know what I mean? You don't want to be anything that's stressing you out doesn't want to be breaking you down. Like you want to be building you up. But like, if you're feeling that stress and you're like, not really sure, like keep going, like push forward, make decisions, move forward, grind on. You know what I mean?
100%. That's such a good point to make, is so many of us will have great ideas and things that we want to accomplish, but we get scared of like whether we're going to fail, what people are going to think, what our family's going to think. And you really can't let that stop you, because at the end of the day, they don't really care like that. Like, and that's something I've learned doing the podcast, is like people pay attention, but they don't always really care like that. And like,
what do you mean?
The fact of like, no one's going to care the way you care about what you're doing. Like the passion with it.
Yeah,
So like,
okay, that makes sense.
You can't allow what they might love what you do, or they might hate what you do, but regardless, it doesn't matter, because you're the one that has to do the damn thing. Like you might love the fact that I do this podcast. You might think it's awesome, but if I'm not the one loving and doing it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't exist without that. Cause like, it's my podcast, so I have to do it.
That's so funny. That reminds me of, someone like just this is an example. Someone's like, "Oh, I feel bad like if I cancel on plans or whatever because of this or something happened." And it's like at the end of the day, like nobody really cares. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you take that like perspective out and you like look in, like nobody really actually cares what you're doing. I don't know.
No, it's true, because like if you think about it, like they're going to get over it. They're going to move on. Like it's not something that's like a crazy decision. Usually a lot of the stuff that people are thinking about, obviously when you're thinking about like career changes or relationship changes or whatever, something like that, those can be life altering, obviously. But like the end of the day, you still have to do the thing. Like whatever you're going to do or whatever you're going to decide to do, you can't allow fear to cripple you and prevent you from accomplishing things. Like if that was the case, I wouldn't be doing this podcast. If I was afraid of what people thought about how I sounded or what I talked about or who I talked to, like if I allowed any of that to sway me in any way, this doesn't exist. I'm 3 years plus into doing this thing. And I wouldn't have traded for anything in the world the amount of conversations that I've had. Dude, it's crazy.
I was thinking that. I was like, just from so at the beginning, like I told you this before, like I listened to all your podcasts. I was a diehard fan. I loved it. I fell off the wagon, couldn't keep up. You're consistent, Mr. Consistency. It's kind of amazing, not gonna lie. But like at the beginning, I was hearing all the stories of like probably the first 50 episodes, I'd say. I listened to every single one. I was like culture shocked. I was like, oh my God, like I'm getting all these stories. Like this is amazing. And like I can only imagine what it's like for you. Yeah. The amount of people you've talked to and the experience you've had, and like I feel like you got to walk in everybody's shoes to understand the world, and like I feel like you're doing that just because I felt a little bit of that when I listened to 50 episodes. And how many are you on?
This is 125.
You're through 125, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like the experience that you have just with people, it's kind of impressive.
Yeah,
and like I can only imagine the like just like what's in your mind about everything. It's kind of
crazy. I mean, I say to a lot of people, like when they come on the podcast, I always picture people like right before we hit record and we start the videos up is everyone that's ever sat across from me. And I take a certain level of like responsibility with that, is like that these people are entrusting me with their story to a certain extent, and they feel confident and comfortable with me to share that and display it in a way that's palatable for people to listen to and like help them kind of guide them through this process. Because most people have never done a podcast. So I have to figure out how to one, make them feel comfortable enough to share intimate stuff about their life and talk about mental health. And two, like I have to present it to the world in a way that's digestible and like actually people are going to enjoy. So it's a two-part thing where you kind of have to figure it out and like just learn and like listen to people, because people want to talk about themselves, but you have to be willing to listen. And most people just aren't willing to listen nowadays. People are just like hi, bye culture. Like you just
active listening is a skill. Dude, it's a skill. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, okay, so I'll give an example. This was the turn. I have a lot of like little turning points in my life where I'm like, oh, that ever since that happened, I don't think the same way about something. Anyways, here's one of those. So I was probably a junior in college a few years ago now, and I was at church one day. By the way, Merry Christmas. I don't know if you're
Merry Christmas,
Christian or not, but I am a Christian. I will propose Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Not going to get into it a lot, but anyways, I am a Christian. Great season. If you're celebrating Christmas, God bless you. But anyways, I was at church one day, and the priest just had a conversation with me. And I have never once in my life experienced active listening at its finest. Like this guy was just listening to every single word I said. There was not a thought of what's next in his mind. There was not any like opinions being formed in his mind. There was nothing. It was just like, it was kind of amazing. Like it was almost like shocking. And I was like, that's active listening. And I'm like, it's a skill. And it's just amazing. And ever since that moment, I'm just like, wow. Like it made me feel really good to be listened to so deeply. And I was like, all right, well, I'm not the best active listener, but like, since it is a skill, I'm going to work on it. Everybody can work on it. I think it's very important. But anyways, that's just one of those moments. Like ever since then, man, oh my gosh, like so incredible.
Yeah, it's true. Most people like don't have that skill, like you said. And like, it's something that especially being lost in this generation as we get more involved in technology, as people are so ingrained with themselves and what they're doing. And they forget that part of human history, one of the most important things that we've ever had is storytelling. And at the base root of podcasting is storytelling. Like all podcasts ever created, like YouTube channels even too, to a certain extent, is like what we're really doing is sharing stories. And like, that's how information was passed before we had technology and stuff like that. So like we're really scratching like a primal thing here with podcasts that people don't really talk about. It's like,
it's an interesting way to think about it.
It is. Cause like, and I think that's probably part of why I like doing it, is like, there's a certain itch that like is being scratched that like, I can't ever explain. Like I always tell people, like when I finish a podcast, like after it, the way that I feel, I can't describe it. Like I've had people say they call this like, it feels like a therapy session, which is like what I go for, is I'm trying to create more of like a therapy session where it's back and forth and it's comfortable and it's welcoming. But like the amount of joy and happiness that fills me after a podcast, like, it's just indescribable. And that's something usually noted with like when you're doing something you actually enjoy, which is technically usually a passion. So
what do you do after a podcast? Curious question.
Depends on what day I record. So
Okay.
like obviously this is a Friday night, but I usually would just like kind of like relax. Sometimes I'll play video games, sometimes I'll watch more podcasts. But if it's a Saturday, I'll finish up, grab food, and start editing the podcast right away.
Oh yeah. Oh, so that's how you know you're passionate about it. You get right after it.
Yeah. I mean, also I'm a quick turnaround person. So like I try to like make sure like I'm into it, getting it done. Cause like YouTube takes a while to upload and stuff too. So like I have to make sure I'm getting that process done. But I liked, if I can, I like doing the Friday ones. Cause then when I get to, Saturday, I get like a little bit of I get to sleep and then listen to it again versus just doing it and then listening to it again. I think it's more beneficial to have that sleep in between because a little bit more objective when I find my clips and stuff like that. And I can hear it differently versus like living it and then listening to it. It's two different experiences, but both are positive. But yeah, usually it's kind of like nothing can knock me off of like the high that I get of doing a podcast. Like after a podcast, like I'm in a fucking good mood. You can't knock me off of that. Like it's just something that just like it's hard to describe. And for people who have passions, who are doing those things, who are in that kind of flow state, like you even mentioned, you know what I'm talking about. Like that's what it really is. It's like you're in this flow state where like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And like that's what it feels like when I do one of these podcasts every single time.
That's awesome. And that's I think the definition of passion, like finding your passion. I feel like I know at the beginning of the podcast, like the first, like, I don't know when you stopped doing it, but the first few episodes, you always ended with like, what's your advice?
What's your advice to someone who wants to pursue their passion? Still do it for the new people.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So anyways, but yeah, like that's a loaded question. You know what I mean? That's really, really tough. I think it's almost very hard to answer. And I think oftentimes you'll get very inauthentic answers because it's loaded. It's not just easy.
It's like my least favorite answer.
Right. It's hard. It's not clear cut. You know what I mean? It's not super easy.
It's for the clips, to be honest.
But like how
it's in case I'm not gonna say it on the podcast. We'll say it off the podcast. It's for the clips though. It's like it's a fail safe.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fair.
Yeah.
But anyways, the way you describe what you do with the podcast, like, and then how you approach it afterwards, like that sounds like the definition of it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I would continue doing it for 3 years if I didn't really enjoy it. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Like it's,
dude, that's so consistent. That's crazy.
That's something that's one of the most important things about life, being consistent. Are you going to show up on the days that you don't want to do it? That's really what it comes down to.
That's everything. Like that's the gym, that's work, that's providing for your loved ones. That's anything you like to do in life. And sometimes you fall off, you know, it's not a straight shot. You know what I mean? It's not easy. I know you were just telling me about how you went on your vacation and like things kind of fell off, but then you got back into it. Like it's not always a clear path. You know what I mean? But
yeah, it's being willing to accept the highs and lows of like that kind of current. Like life has ebbs and flows, has ups and downs. Like that's what life is. So I think one of those things is being willing to accept, like you're going to have times where you're going to fall off, but like, it's how you bounce back. It's always about how you bounce back. Everyone loves a comeback story. Like you got to be willing to like come back from like those lows. Like, yeah, you can have a month, 2 months, even 3 months, sometimes a year for some people. But like, are you willing to fight back and get back to where you were, or get back to even better than where you were?
that's the story of the hero, man.
That's what it's about. Like, if you aren't living that story, like you're kind of a bot. You're an NPC. like straight up, like you're just a non-playable character going through the motions that no one wants to talk to. Like, that's one of my favorite insults nowadays. Is like bot. Like not a swear word, no cuss word.
I haven't heard that in a while. I used to hear that a lot back in the day, like when I used to play Fortnite.
Yeah,
people are like, "You're a bot.
Yeah,
you're not playing."
I love Fortnite, and like, but I've even seen it trickle into like the culture. Like I've seen certain celebrities and like influencers throw their word around of like people being bots and NPCs, and like I think there's nothing worse that you could call me. Then like if you call me a bot, I'd be so offended. like because or an NPC, because at the root
what
is
do you
just
mean by NPC?
You're a non-playable character.
Non-playable.
You're
okay,
average.
Okay,
you're just like you're not the main, because like you know how people say like that you're the main character of your story. Like you're the focus, But if you're an NPC, you're the one that's in the background while you're doing your story. Like no one cares about you. No one cares about what you're doing. Like you're just there.
I don't know. That's also tough because like you have to define your own player. You know, like,
yeah, you want to be the main character though. Like,
yeah, but like if you talk to the average person in the United States, let's say middle working class average person in the United States.
You mean like, NPCs? Okay.
We're all NPCs. Okay. But like that's what I'm saying. Like I almost like feel like you got to be careful about how you view it because like when you think about like working class, middle class people in the United States, like working for their living, you know, making ends meet, like doing what you got to do to support your family. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely not.
And
sure.
I feel like the culture now is very shifted towards like, if you're not making money online or making billions of dollars, like you're doing it wrong. It's just like, that's so wrong. Like, yeah, we had a whole like culture shift with COVID and people working from home and things changed. But like, I think it's honorable to take pride in your work, no matter what you do for how much. Like if you can provide for your loved ones and like, that's all that matters. So like, I feel like in a way, like, I don't know. I feel like I have a lot of opposing views to things.
No, I hear what you're saying. It's more the bot stuff where it's like when there's no passion to life, when you just do things to do them, and it's like you're just going through the motions of life. That stuff is bot stuff to me.
See, if we're gonna go and define it as bot stuff, I would say bot stuff is being ungrateful for the things that you have in your life. Because if you're more grateful for the things you have in life, you take advantage of it. And you like capitalize on your wins and you take advantage of your resources and the things you have at your disposal. Nothing's like super equal. Like I don't think we need to get into that conversation. That's loaded too. But like, don't be a bot. You know what I mean? Take advantage of the opportunity you have in life and make the most of your life.
That's a good point.
I guess that's my way of looking at it.
I like that. I like that correction to the definition, like, or like the added piece to it. Like it's a little asterisk to it where I also like saying it just because I play Fortnite. Like it's just nothing funnier than just like,
dude, it's good. I've been all right. So personally, like I have a little bit of generalized anxiety. Nothing that's debilitating. I think I talked about this on the last podcast.
Listen, I'm gonna let this run for a little bit longer too. We're an hour. I'll probably let this go close to like an hour and a half, just because like you hands down, like, and I'll let you get back into it. Like hands down, we're one of the biggest supporters like I've ever had in this podcast. Like I know you even said like you fell off a little bit listening wise, but like I don't care about that. It's the stuff that in the beginning like that matters more than now to me, because like when I was starting out and people weren't really paying attention, like you were always sharing, you were always listening, and like to me that's more important. So like if anyone deserves a longer episode, it's definitely you.
Hey man, I appreciate it. I don't even know what I was saying.
Just with the gaming.
So like I think on the last podcast I mentioned like I have a little bit of anxiety. Like not that I'm nervous about this podcast right now, but like all day today, like maybe just the rain, the weather, my feeling, like I'm not feeling my best. Like there's like yesterday and the day before, bro, I was like freaking high as a kite. Like I don't know what was going on in my mind. Like I was just feeling it. Today a little blue, you know what I mean? Like the rain, like kind of like Friday, like it's rainy, whatever. But like I'm kind of little bit anxious, nervous right now. Anyways, that's not my point. My point is,
drank wine too. Maybe that's
I don't know. But
a little red in the face.
But recently, my cousin got me into it a little bit. I've been playing a little bit of Call of Duty.
Nice.
I personally, and this is kind of so shooters and things that take up your full attention and put you in a flow state are very therapeutic to me. That's why when I was a kid, I loved playing basketball. I loved playing the drums. I was very into music when I was younger. And now sometimes like when I have some free time, I like playing shooters. Like I like playing video games. I think it's very therapeutic. So for me personally, everyone's different, but for me, anything that takes up like my attention to the fullest, like is very therapeutic because of how I am as a person. So like, dude, I've been loving the games recently.
Yeah,
Especially now it's cold out, like playing some video games. I've been liking it.
I was gonna say I've heard some mixed reviews about COD lately. Like,
really?
What did I hear? I'm a big Ninja watcher right now. I'm like, I love Fortnite. I've always loved Fortnite.
Fortnite's dead.
No, it's not. It's not. If we compared the average viewers to Fortnite and COD, it'd be decent. Like, so, I mean, also the new chapter of Fortnite just dropped like recently, so that's probably true. Why. Yeah. But I like the kind of kiddish animation to it. Like it just reminds me of like being a kid and having all the different toys and be able to play with them at once with all the different skins. That's what it feels like. And I've always liked that. And like, I just think it's just so far ahead of like these games where it was able to just like do the thing that it did. And like to be alive, it's been like what, 5 years and Fortnite's still semi-relevant to the gaming field.
When Fortnite came out, it was hands down, and this is non-debatable. I don't care who you are. I'll argue this. Like it was the best game that ever came out in history.
Yeah.
Like it was so good. Like, it was just incredible. And like, I just remember like it came out, I think I was 20 when it came out, 20, maybe 19.
Yeah, it was like, because I think it's been out for like 5-6 years, so like you minus like 4
Maybe.
years off that.
Yeah, but like, dude, it was just so, it was legendary. Like, there's no other way to describe it. And like for a video game, like that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Like, think about all the things in the world, like everything you can be doing, like the new day and age, the digital age we're in. Like, this video game just got so popular. Like, it's just a
it
cool
changed
concept.
the way gaming's done. Like, it made Battle Royale way more popular than it ever was, and like it forced games like Call of Duty to make a Battle Royale and like actually get into that space. So
it's just a cool concept. Video games are a really cool concept. The idea of just like bringing yourself to an alternate reality, so weird.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it's so cool.
If you guys like the gaming, go check out last episode 124. I like that plug. We talked a lot about that. I do want to change the conversation so we can get towards like wrapping up and stuff too, but we'll be able to spend like a good portion of time on this is like simple salt.
Oh yes. Okay. All right. The big closer. Yeah, man. So this year, after deployment, I had a little bit of money saved up.
I'm gonna take this and put this.
Yeah.
Unless you want more.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks though.
Just so.
So at the end of my deployment, I had a little bit of money saved up, and I was like, I can do what I've wanted to do for years and like build my own brand, build my own project, have a little side thing. So all my energy on the side goes to something else, not things probably I shouldn't be doing or don't want to be doing, or letting my mind like ruminate on things I don't want it to be on or whatever. So I was like, I've always wanted like some kind of side project, something to put like my time into, my energy, my passion. Anyway, so I had a little bit of money, and in this day, like, you need capital to make things happen. That's how it goes. And like, I don't have a lot, but I had enough to start a business, and I'm like, I'm going to do it. When I was in the Middle East, I was training for my marathon, and I was taking an electrolyte supplement, pretty similar to the one I take now. Mine's a little better. I'm biased.
I'd hope you say that.
But I was taking one very similar. And like, when you hit that hour mark, when you're training hard on a run or anything you're doing and you feel depleted, dude, sodium, sugar specifically, but I don't want to get into that. Sodium is a lifesaver. Hydration is a lifesaver. I felt like revived during my training sessions after I had like a really good electrolyte, like a dense, high sodium electrolyte supplement when I was training really, really hard. Your blood depletes sodium in water so fast. That's why you get all salty. You know what I mean? When you're working out so hard. And I was like, okay, I'm taking somebody else's product. I need it anyways because I like training hard. I'm running this marathon. Like, I have a little bit of money saved up. I'm like, it's time to start my own brand. It's time to provide a high quality electrolyte supplement to everyday athletes for the only purpose of improving their life, improving their performance, improving their quality of their output of training. Like, it's simple. Like, you don't need to make hydration difficult. It's not as simple as drinking water, unfortunately. There's more to hydration than just drinking water. There's a lot behind it. But you can drink water if you're not very active. That's all you need really to be hydrated, because if you eat food, you're most likely going to get enough sodium. But if you're eating if your diet is very clean, you're not using a lot of salt, you're eating more natural foods, like, your sodium content is going to be lower than the average American. And if you're training like an animal, you're going to need to replenish that salt and that sodium in your body. So I was like, you know what, let's do it. Let's start my own brand. Let's start my own electrolytes. I'm going to use it every day. I'm my number one customer. Like, I love it. And yeah, man. So I started an electrolyte supplement company, and I've been doing it ever since. It started pretty decent when I launched, but it's slowing down a little bit. It's the winter, in New England. Most of my customers are in Massachusetts. But yeah, so if anyone out there is looking for an electrolyte supplement, I got you covered. There's a lot of electrolyte supplements out there. Obviously, the number one competitor for that I face is Gatorade. Obviously, they're one step ahead of me, and they have all the money in the world. But they have too much sugar. I don't want a lot of sugar. Me personally, I can't have sugar before training. If I were to load on Gatorade before a run or before a workout, I'd have blood sugar issues. So I need something with lower sugar. And then mid-workout, I need that Gatorade. I need that sugar. Post-workout, I need that sugar. Pre-workout, I need that sodium. Nothing else. So I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's build an electrolyte supplement that's actually going to benefit people. It's going to improve their hydration, improve their quality of life, and let's get it out. And just like your podcast, it's more local. You know what I mean? This isn't like global. I do have 8 ambassadors right now all over the country. But you know, it's still most of my customers are Massachusetts. It's a local business.
What made you decide for the ambassadors? Because I've seen you like post like the different ambassadors. Like, what made you decide to get into that way? Was it a way to kind of like get the message out there and sponsor people who actually would be able to use it in a positive way?
So right now, I would say my ambassadors are half, you know, Seekonk Warrior heroes. Like I have Angelo Sabatini. He's a competitor. He's an athlete. He's
been on the
he's
podcast.
A bodybuilder.
Shout
He's
out to Angelo.
That dude is amazing. Tyler Seals, absolute stud. Eugene LaRue, he's a professional frisbee player. People don't know that. He's a professional athlete. Like I have these guys from Seekonk, Bobby Labossiere, esports player.
He's on my list.
He's excellent, dude. Anyways, I have a lot of Seekonk hometown warriors, and then I have a lot of my professional athletes are endurance athletes because obviously my community I'm trying to reach is, you know, these guys and these girls that are running triathlons, these Ironman killers, you know what I mean? These people that go out and do these crazy endurance these endurance sports and everything. So half my ambassadors, everything good?
Yeah, that one's full. So we're good. We're good on this. Okay, we're good on this camera. I'll clear this. We're good.
All right. Yeah. Anyways, half my ambassadors are, you know, local, and then local athletes and supporters, and then half are, you know, professional triathletes. So it's a good mix. I'm definitely trying to get into the more triathletes and marathoners and endurance athletes because this is really for them. So if you're a runner, if you're an Ironman killer, if you're anybody who works out so hard, heavy sweaters, salty sweaters, I'm your guy. That's all I want to say about that.
I was say I'm curious because so you follow a lot of people that I followed on the podcast. Did you go through my following on the?
Oh, probably.
Yeah. I was wondering how you like, because like how do you follow this person? Like I was like,
when I started, like I was like, how the heck am I gonna like build any Instagram following? I started with just looking at my like close friends and close people, and I was like, let me follow some of their people that, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I probably got like, I don't know, 500 plus just like following people that I knew. Got some people follow back, and now I'm just focused on content creation to find people out there to expand. But like when I started a blank Instagram account, I was like, how the heck am I gonna have anybody look at this?
It is so hard to start an Instagram from ground zero because it's hard to get people to follow back. Like,
yeah, man. I totally underestimated the social media content like thing. It takes up so much time.
Now you know.
I'm working with this new guy now. He went to college with my brother. He's a really nice guy. We're going to do a trial together, see if he's a good fit to work together. He's super passionate about getting involved. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. Social media manager. So we're going to do like a little trial phase. But dude, social media is a beast. Like I was way over my head. The whole social media user generated content marketing thing for a brand, like I would have approached it very differently if I started over, but you learn as you go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard. It's not easy.
Yeah. I've been doing it for 3 years and trying to figure it out. And like, I still got a lot to learn. And like, it's just like people don't really understand until they have to create content for themselves. And like, I always love getting messages from people who are like, oh, can you help me with this? It's like, yeah, I got you. It's just like, people just don't know what it's like until you actually have to do it. Cause this shit's hard. And like, to be honest, like, I always say it, social media is your resume. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a good social media platform, people aren't going to pay attention to you. It's sad, but it's the truth. It is the way it is. And it's, at least for the foreseeable future, is not changing. So adapt or die.
Right. And dude, I would say over the last few months, I started to develop a bad relationship with social media. And I know a lot of people deal with that and it's hard. So I almost had to unplug from my own business, which was kind of sad. You know what I mean? Like I like doing what I'm doing, but I had to unplug from the social media for the last few weeks because like it just wasn't a positive relationship anymore. So now I'm like trying to reapproach it a different way. But that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that happens to anyone who's into content creation too. Is like I've had those spells where it just becomes an unhealthy usage of the social media platform, and it's just not what you're not getting what you need to get out of it, and it can be a dark place. I mean, if you're in the space, and sometimes even like when you're creating the content, you're not getting the likes, you're not getting the follows, you're not getting the views, like. And a lot of it's based on algorithms and like hashtags and audio sounds, trending sound. Like there's so much that goes into it.
And the only way these days I've learned, and like, I mean, I don't know if I should even give advice because I clearly don't have a very successful social media following, but like from what I've learned so far, like Instagram, TikTok, like right now, the only way to grow is to post consistent quality hook. You know what I mean? It grabs you content consistent every single day. And like for people that don't understand like what that is, like that takes so much energy, so much planning. And it's something I haven't figured out yet. Like you got a content batch, you got to prep things, you got to make sure it's quality. You can't just put junk out there. You know what I mean? And it's like, holy crap, like it takes a lot of time. Like anybody who has a big social media following, unless you're like a celebrity, like you put a lot of work into it. It's respectful. Like when you view it from that angle, like it's kind of like, damn, like you know that person put in some work.
Usually there's a team behind it too, because like it takes that much effort.
Yeah.
Like people are getting smarter and hiring people to do it for them. And
that's true.
Yeah, because I've when I grew a little bit of a TikTok following, a lot of it was I posted 5 to 8 times a day.
Yeah.
It was like ruthless, and like I don't do it as much anymore because it just things change, people grow. But knowing that I was able to do that and was able to cultivate like a following based off just myself, what I believed in, quotes and stuff, more relationship geared, but like to rally people behind that always gave me motivation and confidence that like I can do this. Like people are interested in at least whether it was the physical appearance, what I was saying, like the content, like people cared. So like I was able to gather a decent sized audience. So like I can do this. And that confidence was huge moving forward. And it just takes time. Like it just takes one video. It takes it could be take one interview like for a podcast or one post on Instagram, like, or one ambassador that could really set the world on fire for you. So it really doesn't matter.
That's crazy. I actually just had a meeting with, you know, like a content creation team a few days ago for the business. And like basically how this brand took off was that exactly. They had one ambassador with a huge following that said, yeah, I'm in. And then they got into creating content together and that was it. It took off like crazy. So sometimes like I feel like there's a little bit of luck into it, but like you got to grind too. And it's just, I have a whole new way of viewing social media and content creation now ever since I kind of started. Like I dipped my toe in it. Like this is just the beginning for me. I am not a content creator. Dude, it's like the worst. I'm like the worst at it. But like just dip my toe in it. It's such a cool place.
Yeah, I mean, once you're in it, you're in it. So it's like you got to figure it out, but it's a positive thing, and I'm glad that you kind of are diving in that. And I want to start like bringing us home with this podcast and taking us to home base.
Absolutely. So I got one thing for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna turn to you for kind of final thoughts because like I don't really usually lead with a question on the turn up, so it's kind of like I'll let you kind of like take us home with it.
Sure. Yeah. So the first things first. Got you a little Christmas gift.
No way.
From the business.
Hey, let's go.
So for the podcast, for Jared, we got some S3 electrolytes from Simple Salt Solutions.
Like that, boys? Like that, boys and girls?
Yeah. So anyways, I really hope you enjoy that. I hope it's good.
I will be using that. I love that.
Cool. Yeah, I know you work out like crazy, man.
Yeah, so. Trying to stay fit, man.
Yeah. So my recommendation with that, right? So it's 500 milligrams of sodium per serving. So like for me, every single day, I'll take a half scoop, you know what I mean? Sip it slowly in the morning. That's what I like. If I'm training hard, sweating hard, I go to the sauna, I'm doing a long run. Yeah, I'll do a full scoop before and after. You know what I mean? Like put it around your training.
Dude, I get so many crazy muscle spasms too after workouts.
Oh, so dude, that's it. That's your shit. That's it right there.
Foot cramps, fucking leg cramp. Dude, always getting cramps. I'm a huge sweater, so yeah,
got you.
This is gonna be fire.
But yeah, man. So I'm a big advocate for the daily half scoop. That's what I do every day.
Dude, let's go. I'm excited.
Gatorade with like no sugar, and it's just like a way better quality, less garbage in it, more of just what you need.
Yeah, I don't know why that camera's toast for this time.
But anyways, yeah, that wraps that up. I appreciate that coming on here and being able to just say like, hey, this is my brand, this is what I do, this is Simple Salt Solutions electrolytes, like just to get it out to your followings, like that means a lot. You know what I mean? It's every little thing all on the journey of creating a brand, creating whatever you're doing. Like, so I really appreciate that. That itself, even though it's just 5 minutes talking, absolutely huge. So thank you.
Of course, man. I'm always looking for people to come on and like talk about their life, and like people come back. It's always a testament to the fact that I'm doing something that people actually enjoy and want to be a part of. So it's always willing to extend the olive branch and have people come on, and it's a way to it's a longer form content so people can kind of digest and hear what you're talking about and hear the reasoning behind why you do what you do. And I think it's important to have that platform and center around mental health and life stories. It's kind of what I've gone for. But
yeah, no, I love it.
Appreciate you for coming back onto this podcast, man.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
been a great one. It's definitely one of my longer ones. So
how long is it?
This is where like an hour, like 14, right around there.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so kept it in ballpark.
Cool.
That's the other camera. I knew the battery wasn't gonna. This is a testament, you guys, if you're listening to this point. I bought a new camera, and I knew this camera could not handle 4K, and I was always fearful of going to 4K. We're filming on 4K right now, and this camera I knew couldn't do it, and obviously it couldn't handle the smoke. That's what happened. Couldn't handle the smoke.
It's all good. Trial phase. New camera, new goals. We got the most of the pod. We got the important stuff in there. Oh, so, for sure. No, this was awesome, dude.
Yeah, I'm trying to create a cool experience for people and people enjoy it. And you came back, you validated it, and we had a great conversation. I look forward to the future conversations.
Oh, we're gonna have another one. I'll be back. I'll be a third time offender. It'll be great.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate.
Hey, last thing.
Yes.
Where'd you get your haircut?
I go to, it's called The Barbershop.
The Barbershop?
Yeah, I'll show you the address and stuff. It's in East Providence. You know where Travassos used to be, actually?
Yeah.
It's where that is now.
Oh, interesting. I'm still a diehard for Frankenfades for Steve.
Yeah, shout out to Steve.
Man, shout out to Steve. You give them good cuts, man. Good cuts. But anyway, I saw your cut. I'm like, that's impressive. I like the beard trim.
Thank you. I've been going to my barber since I was like a sophomore in high school.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I let Steve cut my hair once or twice. But I'm loyal to my barber. It's hard to switch. It's my longest relationship ever. So it's my joke. It's my favorite joke. But we'll start wrapping this up.
Yeah, sure.
Is there any final thoughts you want to leave the people with before we go ahead?
I guess like before we wrap it up, is there anything else you want to talk to about mental health? Like real quick. Like I feel like we definitely skimmed over it. Like we had a lot to talk about. This was a great episode. Like I know your whole thing is mental health. The shirts, dude, love it.
Hey.
But like, is there anything else like regarding mental health that you like we should shout out? We should bring to people's attention? Like anything? Therapy?
Yeah, just if more people were willing to kind of like try it at least, be more open-minded to it, because people kind of shrug off therapy as like, oh, it's not going to help. Just talking to someone like.
So that's good. I'm glad you brought that up. So I'll just say something real quick about that. Something that I learned in my first semester of this program of being on the road to being a therapist is it is therapy. It's not sitting down and having a conversation. Like the Carroll Connection podcast, this is sitting down and having a conversation. Going to see a professional therapist, clinical psychologist, licensed mental health counselor, licensed family counselor, like they are professionals designed to actually use empirically supported methods to improve your mental state and your mental health. Like it's not just sitting and having a conversation with somebody. If you go into that mindset with therapy, it's not going to work. Like it's an actual therapy. It's like physical therapy. It's like going to the doctor. It's like doing whatever. It's an actual scientifically supported method to improve your mental health. It's not just a conversation. So anyways, that's all I want to say about that. Like, and one thing I learned, I was actually just talking to my parents about this today, just when we were having dinner. Like the short therapy sessions that I've come to learn in different therapeutic approaches are 10 to 12 weeks. And that's short. So like if you think you're going to go have 2-3 therapy sessions, that might be all you need. A little introspection, a little, insight. Great. Like if you need some real work in therapy, like it's going to take time. Like you need to understand that. I feel like that's something people don't understand. It takes time. Like you can do cognitive behavioral therapy for 12 weeks and be successful. You can do psychoanalysis for 3, 5, 10 years for it to be successful. You just got to understand it's a therapy. It's not a conversation. It's real and it works. Anyways, that's all I want to say.
No, that's a perfect way. I think that's actually a perfect way to bow this up and tie this up to make sure we sync it up with something that relates to what we're talking about here is mental health too. But again, Jeff, appreciate you for always coming on the podcast, supporting the podcast, and just being a part of this process. I really do appreciate that.
Dude, this has been absolutely incredible. I was a little nervous at the beginning, but we kind of squashed that real quick.
Yeah, I tried to.
This just really great experience. I'm already excited to come back again. I think this was a good time for me to come on, and I think I'm going to start listening to some more because I can personally see your growth from the last time we've been on the podcast in 2 years, and it's kind of crazy. Like I love to see that, and I'm just like one conversation then, one conversation now. Like I see a lot of growth in you, and now I'm excited to see next time we do a podcast.
Yeah, it's all about the growth.
It's all about a journey, man. It's all about the growth.
Yeah, it's huge. But again, appreciate you for you guys, the listeners. If you guys like the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your grandma. If you Want to listen, check it out, thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you like to watch your podcast, you can go on YouTube, search The Carroll Connection. It should pop up right away for you. If you also want to be a guest or want to return as a guest, you can hit me up at Jared M. Carroll or at The Carroll Connection, and we could set that up however you may want to. But until next time, guys, peace.